Hello, lords and ladies of the realm. It is I, Emily Sophia, back for another round of Game of Thrones. So it is fabulous to return to the wild world of Westeros. And in case you guys have not seen my previous reviews, I did review season by season the entirety of Game of Thrones Season 4. And also an episode of the Telltale Games Game of Thrones series as well. So there's a link in the description to pretty much everything you need, but we're talking the premiere tonight, and there's a lot of serious business afoot, so spoiler alerts before we dive into the mad thick of things, as I will be bearing all in this review. And yeah, also a quick little public service announcement for those of you in the fan community, which I assume you are if you're watching this video. So word on the street is the first 4 or 5 episodes of the season have somehow gotten leaked. And it is my suggestion to you all that even if you can't get your grubby little hands on them, that you wait and watch them week by week along with the rest of us. So that way every Sunday, Bloody Sunday, we have a chance to come together and to lose our minds and just to avoid the continued torrents of spoilers that flood the internet. And I know that some people don't really care and it's more about watching how things play out and not exactly what happens, but that's just kind of my suggestion to you guys. But hey, who am I to tell you what to do? Anyway, I want to open up this special premiere episode review with a little musical number that I came up with in my head called How Do You Solve a Problem Like a Dragon, featuring the Khaleesi herself. So we're gonna sing together. So here we go. How do you solve a problem like a dragon? How do you take their wings and pin them down? Can you even put a dragon on a diet? The bigger they get, the higher the bodies stack up. Oh, how do you train your dragons, dear Khaleesi? How do you keep them from killing everyone? The end. So that was the last thing on my mind that I wanted to share with you guys in this episode. You're welcome / I'm sorry. Anyways, so I'm going to do my best to cover everything that happened in the episode tonight, but if there's anything that I forgot to mention in this review, bring it up in the comments and I promise you I shall bend the knee, okay? So, first of all, let's talk about the flashback that we opened the episode up with tonight, which was a very fascinating device and certainly not what I expected. And I wouldn't have realized that that was actually Cersei's flashback until later, further into it. Although my brother, since he's read the books, promptly told me, like, oh yeah, that's Cersei, by the way. So as she and her companion are wandering in the woods, which for those of us who have seen or watched Into the Woods, we know that anything can happen in the woods. Like maybe you figure out your not so glimmering future as a brief and passing queen who shall be displaced by someone younger who will take all that you hold dear. So I do think in no uncertain terms does the mystic that she visits in the woods tell her that surely she will ascend to power, and by and large she has. Thus far she's played the Game of Thrones with varying levels of success. But all that is due to change, and we kind of get to see that realization that her future might not be so glorious. We see that kind of fade into the funeral for Tywin, and how she is perhaps, I think that we're led to believe that she is trying to see what that prophecy means for her now, or where she's at in that prophecy. And already she has cast a pretty hateful eye on Margaery. This much we have known pretty much since the start. So she believes, and we can tell just by that shade that she is throwing in constant, we can tell that she sees Margaery as a huge threat. Not to mention she is macking on her little son, who is just too young for that much sexiness, okay? She is just not having it. I have to say, one of my favorite scenes from this entire episode was of Cersei sitting up in the balcony, day drinking, and looking loathingly down upon Marjorie, you know, stalking her little boy's girlfriend. You know, that's just the life of Cersei for you. So if you ever find yourself doing those two things, then you are well on your way to queenhood, queenship, whatever the technical word is. But it might not last for long. So we are going to see a very tumultuous future ahead for Cersei. And that's one of the major themes of this entire episode, is the future. Hence the title, The Wars to Come, which is brought up specifically by Varys when he's trying to convince Tyrion to join him in building this new world order where the powerful need not prey on the powerless. And we see who his number one lady on the ticket for the throne is. I think I already gave it away, and if you watch the episode, you know, but we will get to that soon. So, and we also even see, in contrast, Tyrion talking about his own future, and he simply states that the future is shit. And it's kind of the same way for Cersei, actually, but I do hope for somewhat brighter things for our beloved Tyrion. Kind of deserves it. But he also can't really get over the fact that in very quick succession, he killed with his own bare hands his lover, and then did away with his daddy on the pooper. So that's kind of a rough thing to deal with, especially when you've been riding around in a box, pooping out of a hole, and your friend's scooping it over the side of the ship until you get out and then realize, oh, hey, there's alcohol. Okay, I know what I'm doing with my life now. He's got a lot on his plate. So, anyways, we get to see the brief funeral of Tywin, and I'm trying to think of technically who is going to be. Well, he was the king's hand. Is what Tywin was. So, the younger of the Lannisters is still in line for the throne. Still in line for the throne. If I can get my consonants right here. And that is a source of much contention and disliking for Cersei. And perhaps the basis of a lot of her wine consumption. And then she also runs into her cousin, I believe. And there is a very awkward discussion of abnormal relations. And I don't know. I didn't quite catch all that. So There's a lot of unnatural relationships happening over in the Lannister neck of the woods, and they're not even in the woods, so just having a grand old time. So I don't know if I missed something in that part of their conversation, but he shows up mainly because Tywin is no longer in the picture. He and his people would not have been there if he was still alive and well. At any rate, so we also get a conversation between Cersei and Jaime. Cersei very quickly comes down upon Jaime's head for his, she accuses him of releasing Tyrion and saying that this is the direct consequence of setting him free. But it almost seems to me like perhaps that's something that Jaime already accepted in that process, and he kind of knew that in so doing, shenanigans were bound to occur. But with the love that he has had for his brother and not knowing what the future for him would look like at King's Landing, then see, for those of us who love Tyrion with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, this is definitely the better choice. And to have him out there joining forces with Varys, to join forces with another potential leader, you know, it's all very exciting prospect for us, so that's the thing. And then we get to see little tidbits of Marjorie here and there, whether through the hateful gaze of Cersei or her brother, actually, whom she walks in on in bed. And I love, another favorite aspect of the episode for me was when, so she comes in on the party. And I don't remember exactly how she says it, but it's just the whole, like, I don't care, I'm hungry, we need to go. Like, just put your clothes on, I want food. Like, this is my kind of woman, you know? If you're rolling around in bed naked and you're keeping me from getting my grub, that's gonna be a problem. But, so the two of them have a brief conversation about his not necessarily having to marry Cersei, now that Tywin is away. Going to Belize, shall we say, for those of you who are Breaking Bad fans. But anyways, and then she states that she might not necessarily have to stay in King's Landing, I believe is what she was insinuating. And we don't really get a full explanation for why she's saying that, but she's a thinker. She is a smart cookie, which is why Cersei so utterly does not enjoy her, because this woman is not only beautiful, but she is every bit as conniving as she is fair in appearance, and that will simply not fly for this, you know, mother-in-law. But yeah, so then we get a brief glimpse at Brienne and Podrick. And Brienne is not so much a happy camper now that she, pretty much everything that she has strived for in life is crashing down all around her. And she has been pursuing all her life some cause that she can stand up for, and now one aspect of that cause has eluded her grasp because her faithful, not squire, was so attentive to her needs in the battle that clearly she was able to handle on her own. So perhaps if Podrick had actually attempted to keep some kind of eye on Arya, she might not exactly be on the other side of the sea. But hey. Or she probably would still be, because it's Arya. But at any rate, it's tough to see Brienne in this place. She's been another favorite character of mine, and she declares that all the good lords are dead and the rest are shit. You know, again, we have all of these reflections on what could possibly come. What is in the future, and where do I want to find myself when the days that are yet ahead become today? That kind of thing, you know? So we do see that with Brienne. And I truly hope that she is able to find a new reason to carry on, a new purpose, a new, you know, cause for which to swing her sword, as she so capably does. But then we also get to see Varys and Tyrion. This is some very important action here to break down. So as I understand, now I come at this as a non-book reader, not for lack of desire, but really for lack of time at this point. But that is something that I hope to remedy in the future. Anyways, I heard that in the books, and this is not a huge spoiler, so you can like skip 15 seconds ahead if you want, but Varys doesn't stick around close with Tyrion after the Great Rescue, and they arrive on the safer shores, or at least kind of their holding tank until they set forth to find Dany. Yes, she is Varys' #1 vote for the hot seat of Westeros. And this, I mean, is something that's been very apparent and desirable to all of us who have been seeing what she's up to on other sides of the world, the policies that she's making. And, you know, again, she doesn't see herself as a politician. She is the queen. She brings all together and gives life and freedom and all this stuff. I mean, definitely a good kind of ruler to have in that position. Someone to infuse this world so broken by corruption and exploitation, to infuse it with her queenness, and with this this egalitarian perspective that she has, which, you know, we see that it has had she's had some issues in the implementation of her ideology, of the way that she views the world and the way that she wants things, because she is constantly baffled and appalled at every angle by these people who she liberates, and who appear, at least from her perspective, to want to go back to those chains that she has broken. Yeah, so again, really fascinating to start even potentially thinking of her in the context of this greater world order, but that is something that Varys is kind of banking on in his mind. You know, it is time to get a lady in this business. So maybe, we're not just talking about Marjorie being the one to displace Cersei and her power. Could even be talking about our Dany girl. It's distinctly possible. I have no idea, but I'm gonna be keeping myself an open mind, that's for sure. Anyways, so it's great to see how Varys kind of becomes a counselor for Tyrion in the midst of his grief at what he has done. I mean, it was bound to happen that Tywin was going to be taken out by his hand. By his, you know, we saw the whole dynamic at the end of the last season, the whole, you are my son, you're not my son, I am your son, goodbye. You've been dispatched. And then, of course, the main reason for at least the first arrow that Tyrion shot was because of the fact that Tywin called his lady lover, Shay, called her a whore and insisted on repeating that, and then did the whole, you're not my son, and then, you know, anyway. So, that is all rolling around in Tyrion's mind, which he is now attempting to bathe in alcohol until death does he part from the world. But Varys is not going to let that be. Because, I mean, not only was he given the order by Jaime to take Tyrion away and to prevent him from possible and more than likely death, but he also sees in Tyrion a partner. Someone who can use his political angle and his compassion and fuse them together in something that the world so desperately needs in the wars to come. It's the title. Yeah, so that was just a really great scene for me, and I love to kind of pick Varys' brain just a little bit more. And I know that a lot of people, too, are saying that the big war that it's going to come to is going to be one even between Varys and Littlefinger, too. They are definitely some powerful contenders in all that is forthcoming. So I look forward to seeing what exactly Littlefinger's got up his sleeve, too. So that leads me to the brief scenes that we saw with Sansa and Littlefinger. They're watching the, I forget the name of Sansa's cousin, the little tit-tucker lad. I think he was the one who was practicing his more or less kind of totally mediocre swordsmanship. So they are watching that, and then later the two of them are bound for some Neverland, where Littlefinger maybe trusts everyone. Or at least he says that they're going to a place where Cersei can never find her. Which is a good thing, because she is pretty much pitted against all of powerful womankind. And Sansa is really coming into an interesting form of power as well, so I think she would do well to not be within Cersei's radius, shall we say. But yeah, that's pretty much all we really get to see about those two in this episode, but definitely much more to come in the future. There's just lots of future things that are at work here, and that's really what this episode does and accomplishes, is sets up where we're going, lays the stage, provides all the direction and motives, and we're getting there. We are getting to the next round of action, and I'm very excited about where we're headed. Anyway, so then we also get to see Jon and Stannis come together and speak about Stannis' plan to displace Lord Bolton, who has taken over Winterfell. Which, I mean, for those of us, all of us, who have had to watch the complete and utter dismantlement and dispersal of the Stark family, this is a long freaking time coming. I mean, the last time we were really in Winterfell was when Mr. Greyjoy showed up like the badass that he thought he was, and now has been turned into Ramsay Snow's little play toy, shall we say. But yeah, so it's about dang time. You know, I've always been in an interesting place as far as what I think about Stannis, and I definitely believe that he possesses some leadership qualities and that he is a more savory leader than a lot of people that are seeking that spot. And in this particular case, taking Winterfell could, you know, it could maybe prove strategic. But this, of course, means that Jon now tasked with the responsibility of actually recruiting the wildlings to join them in this endeavor, he is forced to go confront Mance, who has not his pride, but a desire to maintain his integrity, his kingship, which is not acknowledged by Stannis, and he has to surrender that in order to participate in this foreign war, essentially. And although it becomes a matter of life or death, of kneel or burn, he knows exactly what he wants, and really he's just kind of trying to test the waters and glean from Jon how exactly he's going to die. Really, that's the way that their whole conversation goes down. It's like, I've got my answer, now tell me what this is going to look like for me. Just break this on down for me. And he's really turned off to the idea of getting burned alive, namely because there's absolutely no way to do that with dignity, with stoicism, just kind of hold into yourself. And he wants to leave some kind of positive image for those who have followed after him all this time. And it's tough too, because he and Jon have formed this friendship and alliance as well. But Jon kind of knows the ambassador role that he is playing here and doesn't have the ability to set Mance free from this. And thus, we go not so quietly into that dark night with Mance, but ultimately we see that kind of turn into a mercy killing as Jon plants the arrow in his heart before the flames can rise up and engulf his head. He's trying so desperately to keep from screaming out, and Jon's like, okay, I got this, buddy. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this your way. This is, like, you have chosen to make this sacrifice, and I am going to try to make it worth it in some way. This sick and awful situation, but it's all a part of Stannis's power play, and it's going to be interesting to see what the consequences of Jon's actions will be, because he's been on thin ice with some of the higher-ups here at the Wall before, and now that he has kind of taken away that full punishment for Mance's refusal to kneel, he's kind of softened the blow. Yeah, I will be curious as to whether or not he gets a good old slap on the wrist of some kind. Not so much curious as, like, yeah, he's gonna get something somewhere down the road, but I'm excited for the Winterfell showdown, that's for friggin' sure. And then, what else do we have? Oh yeah, so let's go back to Dany, with whom we began this review. So, once again, of course, she is placed in a position of having to make a decision about what the people of Meereen want, and they want the restoration of the fighting pits, which, again, for her, the fighting pits are slavery incarnate. They were a system that was in place, and where slaves were made to fight each other to the death, and by her estimation, this is not gonna fly. And why exactly would you even want this? And of course, her bedside companion tries to convince her that, hey, the fighting pits actually led me to you, into your sheets, to intimate times, into his, becoming a sellsword and all that stuff, or whatever position it is. I'm trying really hard to remember all the logistics of this world, and, forgive me if I misspeak. But then we also have the issue of the Mother of Dragons being without her dragons, and she decides then to pay them a little visit that ends in a pretty glorious, fiery jump scare, which I knew was gonna happen. I was like, for as long as she's spent in the darkness of that catacomb and the quietness, I was like, okay, you need a torch. You need it, because there's gonna be fire very shortly. You might want to see that it's coming, perhaps, but yeah, so her kiddos are less than satisfied with the state of their groundedness. And I am a little bit concerned as to how she is going to handle them, and I think that she is too. Which that whole thing could have turned into the little musical number that I came up with in my mind, but it didn't, so that was a slightly missed opportunity, but whatever. But yeah, so I think that kind of encompasses everything that happened. But yeah, if there's any major detail that I overlooked, bring it up below. We will duke it out in the comments together. Yes, so the wars to come. We see that theme reflected in virtually everything in this episode. And also there is some kind of killer afoot in Meereen 2, the masked offender. So we'll see what exactly that's going to turn into as well. Yeah. And there's some exciting things coming up next week too, so if you guys want to talk about the preview for episode 2, we can do that. And also, if you talk about things from the books, I would go ahead and preface that with some kind of spoiler and asterisks and, you know, all caps, whatever, to just let us know. Although it's quite possible that at some point in maybe even the not too distant future, the show is going to end up surpassing the books, which, again, I haven't read the books yet, and I don't know how I feel, and I don't want to... I know that my book reading brother is quite tortured over it, and I don't want you to, I don't want to re-incite that for you if you've experienced that same, distress within. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this video, but thank you so much for watching. It is so good to be back in this world. I'm going to be reviewing Gotham and Bates Motel tomorrow. And then I'm also going to be doing the first season of Daredevil at some point too. That's on Netflix and you have to see it because it's beautiful and amazing and I gotta go. But Danny loves you and pray for her because she has some excitement to come in her future days. But Varys and Tyrion are coming to talk to her so we can have all of our favorite characters make friends. It'll be great. Yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna peace out. And as always, I will be back before you know it.